Blog Talk Radio.
Hello and welcome to Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio. This is Stefan, your host, British by birth, American by choice. The Founding Fathers crafted some remarkable documents that led to the creation of a great country founded on liberty and self-reliance. I have lived in the Euro-socialist nightmare, and I'm doing what I can to return this country to the vision that the Founding Fathers gave us. We need to strive to rebuild that shining city on the hill, for without us, the world has nowhere to turn for freedom. For the next hour, I will be presenting news, views, and guests that help keep the true spirit of America alive. And good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever, whenever you're listening to the show. This is Stefan, your Patrick Come Lately, British by birth, American by choice, welcoming you to episode 192 of the Patrick Come Lately show. Thank you for joining me this week. As promised, this week is news and views, and perhaps also I'll squeeze in a little bit about one of the greatest speeches ever written. Yes, it is the 150th anniversary of the Gettysburg Address, and I think we need to listen to that, reflect on that, because I think it is a very strong speech. So this week, I'm going to try and be a little positive, and I think there are a number of positive things. It doesn't mean that I won't be touching on some negative things, because unfortunately with the current regime in Washington, there's a lot of negative to go around. But we are going to try and get some positive things in there, so let's all think positive. And we know 2014 is coming up, the first round of elections, and with all the bad things that are happening to the regime, hopefully things are going to go better for the people on our side, and that's not just the GOP, but the Conservatives in the GOP. I want to say hi to the guests in the chat room. I see Mary and Iggy are there, and we also have a unnamed guest, so welcome there. Anyway, so news and views. So we're going to have all sorts of, I'm going to jump around from this to that to the other. I want to start off, we do have to talk a little bit about some of the negative things. And that is about all the lying that has come to light over the last 2-3 weeks. Basically that King Barry and his court and his administration, his regime, whatever you want to call it, they pretty much knew that the number of people that were going to be losing their insurance was as high as they said. Now let's think about this. We were always told we had to have Obamacare because of all the people who didn't have insurance. And right now, we're probably going to end up with more people without insurance because of Obamacare than before Obamacare. Even the Dems themselves now have started admitting that they were lying to us. Kirsten Gillibrand was on ABC, I think it was a week ago, on the Sunday shows, and she admitted that the Democrats knew full well that there would be a large number of people booted from their health insurance plans as part of Obamacare. When she was asked whether the Dems felt that Obama had misled them, or whether Americans should feel that they were misled about whether or not they could keep their plans, Gillibrand said he should have been more specific. We all knew. She added that the whole point of Obamacare was covering things people need, like preventive care, birth control, pregnancy. In other words, they know better than us what kind of insurance, and they're going to tell you what kind of insurance you should have. Once again, the regressive nanny state. And Gillibrand also said the redistributive nature of Obamacare, in other words, having people with more money pay for the insurance of people with less money or who need more insurance, was the point of the program. Anyone claiming ignorance was therefore not telling the truth. In other words, she was saying her own party were lying, her own president was lying, because they all said, if you want to keep your plan, you can keep it, period. Well, lies, lies, lies. We may get back to that, but first of all, let's talk about some good news. But before I do, just want to say quickly hi to Rex, who's joined us in the chat room there. Thank you for coming, Rex. Glad to see you, and congratulations on getting ARCs onto Kindle and published in that way. I'm sure you get a great number of people reading. And by the way, if you have a Kindle, go look for Edward Reepe's books. ARCs is a great one, and of course the FEMA Camp series are super books. And there is another one coming along, so looking forward to that as well. And we will, of course, try to get Rex onto the program when his book comes out and talk about the latest in the series. Anyway, good news, folks. D.C. Court of Appeals, which is the second most influential court in the land behind the Supreme Court, ruled 2-1 in favor of business owners who are fighting the requirement that they provide their employees with health birth control. So a couple of weeks ago, it was struck down by the court, which means, of course, it will go up to the Supreme Court because it trammels, that's lawyer talk, constrains religious freedom. So congratulations. I think Hobby Lobby and Chick-fil-A were involved in that, but also many other business owners. Restriction of religious freedom is a good attack point for Obamacare, so congratulations there. More good news. And this is for the Montana Senate race, which is up and running already. Senator Max Baucus, who's a Democrat in Montana, has announced that he's going to retire, so people are lining up to replace him. Now, on the Democrat side, and Max Baucus is a Democrat, they have the Lieutenant Governor, John Walsh, is in there, and also the former Montana government, John Bollinger, who's now running as a Democrat, but who used to be a Republican. And we have Representative Steve Daines, who wants to take over that Senate seat. And the representative, Steve Daines, is a Republican. Now, he is a Republican, but he's not really very much loved in his state. In actual fact, his approval rating is only at 37%. And he has 42% of the people polled disapprove of him. And yet he is leading the lieutenant governor by, 17% and 15-point lead over the former governor. So a Republican is leading with significant double digits over two Democrats, even though he's a very unpopular person. Even Obama himself, his approval rating in Montana is down to 34%, with 63% disapproving, which is a big drop from the 42% of the vote that he got in Montana in 2012. So anyway, that's pretty interesting to see what will happen there. And how much of that is due to Obamacare? A huge, huge amount. Okay. Well, like I said, keeping it positive. Let's talk about that 150 years since the Gettysburg Address. And before I read it, and I think it's a good thing that on a day like today that we do read this again and let it sink into our brains. It is, as some people say, it's probably one of the greatest speeches ever written, and it's very short, so it's ideal for a radio show like this because it's not a long one. Now, I did a little bit of research into what went on that day, and they were dedicating the cemetery there for the people who fell at Gettysburg, for the Union soldiers primarily who fell at Gettysburg. But of course, Lincoln, in his very statesman-like way, did not choose sides in this particular speech. What a difference to our guy we have today. He would be often ranting about the other side and just being absolutely despicable about them. But Lincoln was a statesman. But the interesting thing was, so he has this 2-minute speech to dedicate the cemetery. There was another official there from the government, and he actually spoke for 2 long hours. Can you imagine that? Now, I did read that in those days it was normal when a cemetery was dedicated for there to be long, boring speeches. But can you imagine talking for 2 long hours, something like 13,000 words? Whereas here, we've got a couple of hundred, a little bit over a couple of hundred. Somebody said you could probably squeeze the whole Gettysburg Address into 2 tweets, maybe 3, but 2 tweets, just about 2 tweets. Isn't that amazing? And something with so much power, such a beautiful speech, and yet so short. So I'm not going to try and do my Lincoln accent. Not doing an impersonation. Let me read it as I see it. 87 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation, or any nation so conceived and so dedicated, can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that the nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here, have consecrated it, far above our poor power to add or to detract. The world will little note, nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. For it is us, the living, rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated. It is rather for us here to be dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that the government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. So as I said, a very, very powerful but short speech. Amazing how Lincoln, and apparently he wrote it himself. There are a few different versions. There's a little bit of discussion exactly what words were actually used. This is the most common form. But he wrote it himself, and he managed to distill in a number of very key aspects to it. Now, as you know, there's been a lot of other people reading this in this week. Ken Burns has been put together all sorts of famous people reading from this. And even King Barry read it, although he didn't take the trouble to go out to Gettysburg and attend the ceremonies there because he was too busy fixing the Obama curse or the obamacurse.gov mess. So they say, probably out on another golf course. He has no sense of history, no sense of patriotism whatsoever. And he did record a copy of this speech, reading this speech, and he chose to take one of the versions where the phrase, under God, is missed out. Now, most other people, most historians seem to say that that was included by Lincoln at the time. So why did Barry leave it out? He's left it out before now. It's not the first time. So now we know where his heart really is. Anyway, let's go back to this great speech. I'd just like to dissect it a little bit before we go to the first break. So, first of all, he reminds the people there that just basically a very short while before, 1.5 generations, the Founding Fathers had created a new nation. But he reminds us it was conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. It was a very powerful statement. In just those few words, he sort of summed up what is called the main reason for the Civil War, slavery. And in just a few words, rather than having to spout on for 2 hours about anything, so in just a few words, he can already bring that forward. I mean, I think that's really a tremendous accomplishment for writing this. And then he talks about the Civil War, testing whether the nation that was brought forward by the Founding Fathers, any nation so conceived and so dedicated, can long endure. So could it remain in place for more than just a few generations? Of course, we now know that it wasn't all that long afterwards, again, just another generation after that, when the regressives started trying to take over and corrupting the Constitution and changing it from what the Founding Fathers had originally wanted to do. So, can we long endure? Lincoln was faced with a civil war, testing whether the country can endure. And right now, in some ways, it seems like we're fighting a civil war as well, because the leader of this country is just pitting one group against another, whether it's women against the GOP, whether it's blacks against whites, whether it's gays against straights. He's always finding people to pit one against the other. He is creating the Civil War, as opposed to Lincoln, who was trying to stop the Civil War. He talks about being met on the great battlefield of that war. And of course, Gettysburg was one of the great battles of that war. And the fact that they've come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place, as the cemetery for the people that gave their lives. He says it's proper and fitting to do this, but in the bigger picture, we can't do that. The people who died, the people who fought on that field, some were still alive, they are the ones who actually dedicated, who consecrated, who made that ground holy. It wasn't the people that were met there to do that were doing that. And again, a very powerful imagery, I think, there of these people that come there to dedicate it. And if you think about it, in some ways, in a selfish way, it was them that were doing the dedication. And Lincoln reminds us, no, it's the people who came before us, who fought here, that actually dedicated it for us. He says the world will little note or long remember what we say here He wasn't quite right there, because let's remember the Gettysburg Address is definitely one of the best speeches ever, and of course everybody knows about the Gettysburg Address, so people do long remember. But he was quite right in saying that the world will never forget what happened on that field, the battles and all the hardship and all the people that died there. And so he asked the people, the living that are there at the dedication, to remember the unfinished work for which those who'd been fighting for what they were fighting for, is basically to keep the United States united and to have a better country for all of the people in the country, because we are all created equal, and ensuring that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom. And then that famous statement as well, coming back, that the government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. And unfortunately, that last one, it is perishing from the earth unless we take over and do our best to make sure that we go back to the liberty that was designed by our founding fathers. Okay, folks, time for a quick break. I will be, as I like to say, right back after these messages.
Are you paying too much for your car insurance policy? Have you shopped your current plan in the last year? If you haven't, then you probably are paying too much. You could save up to 40% on your current car insurance coverage just by making a free call right now. Doesn't it make good sense to pay less for something you have to pay for anyway? And car insurance is one of those things. You got to have car insurance, whether you have one car or 10 cars. So why not see if you can pay a lot less for it right now? One quick 3-minute call, and you could save hundreds of dollars on your car insurance. We'll compare the leading car insurance companies and get you coverage that could save you up to 40% on your car insurance. Call now for a free quote. Call 800-603-9980. 800-603-9980. 800-603-9980. 800-603-9980. That's 800-603-9980.
Are you tired of commuting to a job that makes someone else rich, working harder than ever, but getting nowhere? Do you hate spending hundreds of dollars every week on daycare, having someone else raise your children? With our opportunities, you can start earning money as soon as next week. You get to be the boss, work from home, and live a happier life. At Be the Boss Network, you'll find hundreds of work-from-home opportunities that you can literally start today and be earning money as soon as next week. Go to freedom112.com and start earning money as soon as next week. You get to be the boss. Get out of the rat race. Work from home. Go to freedom112.com right now and change your life today. That's freedom112.com. Go to freedom112.com and start earning money as soon as next week. You be the boss. Go to freedom112.com. Limited time offer, 24-month commitment, credit qualification required, cancellation fee, auto pay, and paperless billing, and other restrictions apply. If you can't see the difference, why pay the difference? Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Only Dish brings you the best in entertainment for less than $20 a month. Cut the cable and don't get directed. Switch to Dish because at just $19.99, Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. It's so simple. The same channels cost less with Dish. So since you can't see the difference, don't pay the difference. Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Get premium movie channels free for 3 months, starting at just $19.99. Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. Call now to save with Dish. Dial 1-800-865-5017. That's 1-800-865-5017. The same channels for less than $20 a month. Dish. Call 1-800-865-5017 for details.
This is Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio, coming to you live via the internet, via rebroadcast on WRSDB, the Red State Talk Radio Network,
or from the recordings at archives.patrickcomelately.us.
And this is Stephen, your Patrick Come Lately. Thanks for sticking with me through the break. As I said, I'm going to try and be a little bit positive with all the doom and gloom that's going on. We've got enough of that. And of course, the holiday season is coming, so let's think positive thoughts. And I found something on the internet. You may have seen it. I don't know if you have, but and I thought this is rather nice, and it's very positive. It's called The Birth of a New Tradition. So let me read parts of it to you. It says, as the holidays approach, the giant Asian factories are kicking into high gear to provide Americans with monstrous piles of cheaply produced goods, merchandise that has been produced at the expense of American labor. So why don't we make it different this year? This year, Americans should give the gift of genuine concern for other Americans. There is no longer an excuse that at gift-giving time, nothing can be found that is produced by American hands. Yes, there are, if you just look around and think. It is time to think outside the box. Who says a gift needs to fit in a shirt box wrapped in Chinese-produced wrapping paper? Everyone, yes, everyone gets their hair cut. So how about gift certificates from your local American hair salon or barber? Gym membership. There's a good one. It's appropriate for all ages who are thinking about health improvement. What about getting your car detailed? Small American-owned detail shops and car washes would love to send you a gift certificate or a book of gift certificates that you can give to your family, friends for Christmas, and you're supporting Americans. Are you one of those extravagant givers who thinks nothing of plunking down the Benjamins on a Chinese-made flat-screen TV? Perhaps that grateful gift receiver would like his driveway sealed, or lawn mown for the summer, or his driveway plowed all winter, or games at the local golf course. So why not get gift certificates and do one of those? There are a gazillion owner-run restaurants, all of them offering gift certificates, and they're local Americans running them. And if your intended isn't the fancy eatery sort, what about half a dozen breakfasts at the local breakfast joint? Of course, the recommendation is here, don't go for the big national chains, not the McDonald's, not the Burger Kings, not the Waffle Houses. Go to the small hometown Americans who are supporting you, trying to keep their doors open and trying to live and trying to have their financial lives kept. You would be supporting them by doing that. If those ideas aren't enough, what about an oil change for car, truck, or motorcycle? But do it, again, at a small American-run shop. What about for your mother? Mother's getting on a bit, especially. She would love to have a local cleaning lady come in and perhaps do a blitz on the house. You could do that once, or if you're very generous, have her come in once a month, once a week, once every 2 weeks, whatever you can afford. Again, use a local cleaning lady. No need to go to a big chain. Let one of the local Americans get the benefit of that money. Computer tune-up. So go out and look around. You can probably find some young guy who's struggling to get a repair and tune-up business for computers up and running. Support him. If you want to have more personal things, go to the local craft shows. And you'll find people there who are spinning their own wool and they knit them into scarves, making jewelry, pottery, wooden boxes, paintings. Support local people that way. During the holidays, we talked about getting gift certificates for local owner-operated restaurants. During the holidays, use them for your eating out. Again, don't go to the big chains, but use the local owner-operated restaurants and leave your server a nice tip. It is, after all, Christmas. How about going out to the theater or to a play or to an opera in your hometown theater? Musicians need the love as well, so find out where there's a bar or some other showcase where they feature local bands. Give them your support. Remember, folks, do you really need another 10,000 Chinese lights for the house? Yeah, they're $5 off at Target or Walmart or Home Depot. But when you buy a $5 string of lights, only about 50 cents stays in the community. If you spent that $5 on a restaurant, a lot more stays in the community. So there's a positive idea. Let's not have Christmas draining the American pockets so China can build another glittering city. Christmas can be about caring for us, we the people, encouraging American small businesses to keep plugging away to follow their dreams. And remember, it's small businesses that make this country big, and it's small businesses that King Barry is trying to get rid of. So let's support them and keep them alive, because when we get rid of him and his cronies and the regressives, we will need all the small businesses that we can get hold of. And when we show that we care about other Americans, we care about our communities, and the benefits will come back to us in ways we could not imagine. So here's a suggestion for the new American tradition. Let's pass this around. We can make a difference. Okay, folks, time for the next break. Be back again after these messages. And these messages will run in a moment, if you'll just bear with me. Here we go.
Why spend more than you have to on your life insurance? Did you know that term life insurance rates have fallen over 60% in the last 15 years? At the Life Insurance Quote Line, we monitor the rates, features, and financial strength of hundreds of life insurance products. For example, a healthy 40-year-old can protect his family with $500,000 of 10-year level term for less than $20 a month. Rates for women are even lower. And don't forget to ask us about the new term life policies that guarantee your money back even if you don't die. Since 1986, we've helped tens of thousands of people just like you save a fortune on their life insurance. Why not find out how much you can save? Write down this number and call today for your free quote. 1 5-minute call is all it takes. Call 800-915-9734. 800-915-9734. That's 800-915-9734. Rates, policy forms, and availability vary by state.
My mom fell down last month. She didn't break her hip or anything this time, but it took her almost an hour to get to the phone to call me for help. I can't be there for her all the time, and I'm scared she won't be safe alone. She's so weak and frail. I don't know what to do or who to call for help.
We're LifeWatch, and we understand. We can be there for your mom or any loved one, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If you call us right now, we'll send you absolutely free an information-packed report on the 9 most important things you need to know to make sure your parents are safe when living alone. It's completely free. Don't hesitate. Use our 35 years of senior medical alert expertise and put your mind at ease. Call us for your free report right now. 800-531-3815. That's 800-531-3815. Put your mind at ease. Call us at 800-531-3815. Call right now.
Challenging and defeating the left-wing agenda of the mainstream media, The Terry O'Brien Show. The Terry O'Brien Show airs live in vivid red, white, and blue, Sundays, 4 to 6 p.m. Central on Blog Talk Radio.
I think that most liberals are well-intentioned but misguided. They're like children who have the luxury of believing in the political equivalent of the tooth fairy. They need some tough love. They need a big old healthy dose of common sense and information. And when they get it, the smart ones will become conservative. Politically incorrect? Damn straight I am. Got a problem with that?
All stations, prepare for reconnection.
When you listen to the Terry O'Brien Show, you're going to hear the news that everyone will be talking about on Monday. Politics, the culture, the media, celebrities, everything important that affects your life, and some things that don't, but still amaze, amuse, or disgust you. Provocative, informative, and occasionally snarky. You might be enraged, but you will never be bored. Strap in for the wild ride with America's original conservative warrior princess.
This is Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio, keeping the spirit of America alive, a proud member of the Red State Talk Radio Network.
And thank you for sticking with me through that break. And just to remind you folks, if you're listening to a recording of the show, that some of the offers in the commercials are time limited. So if you're listening to an old show, they may not still be valid. But obviously, if you listen close to the original date, those offers are still there. And if you do call those numbers for those services, much appreciated, because the way it works in this alternative media is I don't get paid for running the commercials, but only when people actually react to them. So thanks for doing that when you do so. Interesting chat going on in the chat room there as we go into the second half of the show. Try to keep this sort of suitable for work type of language on the show, so I won't go into the details of what's being discussed, but pretty interesting. I said I was going to try and keep it fairly positive this week, but we would dip into some of the more negative things. And of course, I think the big discussion point over the last couple of weeks has been the fact of so many people getting the cancellation notices for their insurance. And I think to date we're talking about 5 or 6 million people that have received them. There have been also hundreds of thousands of doctors basically getting thrown out of the insurance on that side, that the insurance companies are saying, well, we're just not going to use these doctors anymore. So not only is Obama trying to get more people insured, but we're going to have less doctors when you do go in for anything, and that means you're going to be waiting much longer in line. Now, big discussion, of course, about these 5 million people, and the left has been trying to spin that. So lies. And I've got a number of posts at my blog. That's blog.patrickcomelately.us. Feel free to go there and take a look. But some of the things, the 5 million has been spun as being just 5% of all the people that would be insured. So it's not that much, said the left, said King Barry. It's just a small blip on the radar. Well, 5 million's not a small blip on the radar to me, and if you're one of the 5 million, you certainly don't feel like being a small blip. But 5 million get thrown off, and then they go to the exchanges if they can get on, and they're finding out that to get coverage similar to what they had, it's going up 2, 3, 4 times, and the deductibles are going up 5, 6 times, things like that. This is because the individual mandate has come in now, and basically we had to pass the law to find out what's in it, and basically what was in it, it said these plans have to have X, Y, and Z. They have to have all these extra things that most people don't need. And if you don't have those, then the insurance companies are not allowed to provide those other insurances, cheaper insurances. So that's why there have been all these cancellations. Now, of course, this is only the individual marketplace, folks. Next year, we get the employer mandate, when employers have to have plans that answer to Obamacare. And what's going to happen then? So there are some estimates now that there could be up to 130 million people going to lose their current health care plan in the next year. Can you imagine that? 130 people losing it. So here we are, because of something between 10 and 13 million uninsured people that we had to have Obamacare to get them insured. Now it turns out we might end up with 130 million losing them and then having to go to the exchange and finding out that that it's going to cost 2-3 times as much. Folks, we've got to find a way to stop this. And very interesting, talking about that, there was one lady who was recently held up by King Barry as here's a great example of someone who actually got some great insurance through the healthcare exchange, and it was cheaper for her and it was a better insurance. She was on CNN just, I think, yesterday or maybe a couple of days ago, saying when she'd originally signed up, it looked great. But then she got a letter saying, well, there was a mistake in the calculations, and so she'd actually have to pay $100 a month more. Well, she didn't have a lot of money, so that was a bit of a shock, but she said, okay, well, I can probably stretch to that. And this is a Democrat, by the way, who voted for Obama and was very much in favor of Obamacare. Poor woman. But anyway, deranged, but whatever. 2 or 3 weeks later, she got another letter saying, actually, we made another mistake, and you actually have to have a rate of another $100 a month higher. She thought, oh, well, this is even that, but she was getting a subsidy, so that was helping her with the overall cost, so she said, that's okay. Then 3 weeks later, she gets yet another letter where they say, well, now we've done all the calculations and corrected some errors on the exchange website. And by the way, it turns out that you're not actually eligible for the subsidy that we thought you were going to be eligible. So here she is. She's had her price increased $100 per month. Twice, so $200 higher, and then on top of that she loses her subsidy, so she basically said, I can't afford to pay this. So here's someone that King Barry held up as a paragon, as an example of how good Obamacare was going to be, and actually it's shown what a curse Obamacare really is, because the poor woman now has said she's just going to pay the $95 fine, which is $95 now, but is going to increase sharply over the next few years because she can't afford to have actual health insurance. So, folks, unbelievable what all is going on there. Okay, so let's go back to the positive things. I'd like to say hi to COG, who has joined us in the chat room there. Better late than never. And apologies, folks, not participating in the chat room as much as I would like. As you know, it's not always easy when you've got the show to do. And I've got another great article that I found and that I would like to share with you. And again, some of you may have seen it, so bear with me if you have. But this was at libertynews.com, and was this one? No, that was the 129. This came from AmericanPolicy.org, and this was an article called In Defense of the Tea Party. And I'm not going to read all of it, but I do want to pick out some of the key points that the author, Tom DeWeese, made. And it was entitled In Defense of the Tea Party because the Tea Party has been taking such a beating lately. And let's start, and it is mentioned in the article, let's start with I think, one very good example where the Tea Party favorite Ted Cruz of the great state of Texas, from where the broadcast is coming again. I'm back in Houston. And Ted Cruz stood up for his principles and said, this is what I told my constituents I was going to do, and he did it. And he was excoriated, not just by the left, but even by his own party. But who was proved right at the end of the line? Ted Cruz. Yes. And the Tea Party for encouraging him to stand up for that. So here we are in defense of the Tea Party. Well, Tom Weiss started off his article saying, just a few years ago, some American citizens came together to demand change. They were fed up with decades of out-of-control government growth, confiscation of their hard-earned income through ever-increasing taxes, and unending regulations invading every aspect of their lives. Things were racing out of control. Well, here. Great statement to open up that article. He goes on to say that people were seeing America changing, not for the better, freedom and rights guaranteed under the Constitution disappearing. Think about the Fourth Amendment with the TSA and with the Patriot Act. The fact that our elected representatives, it's supposed to be a representative constitutional republic, but our representatives don't listen to us. So we don't have a representative republic. Those in power don't seem to care. So the Tea Party came along. Tea Party, not, well, obviously a pun on the Boston Tea Party, but tea standing for taxed enough already. And that was really the original impetus for a lot of the protests. Let's stop the spending. Let's stop the increase in taxes. We organized, we rallied, we confronted members of Congress at local meetings, and the voices were heard. In 2010, we elected people, but they were subsumed by the establishment in Washington, and a lot of those Tea Party people disappointed us. A lot of the Tea Party were political novices. I like to think of myself being part of the Tea Party, and me too. I'd never thought of being a political activist. As you heard a few shows ago when I talked about my dad, it sort of turns out it is in my blood that I got from him, but I'd never really thought about it before, so I came to it very late in life. So Tom Weiss talks about these concerned citizens, many who are parents, grandparents, and who'd really just been asleep at the wheel, suddenly woke up and realized what was going on and just realized how dangerous and how massive the government had gotten. And that shocked them. So they found out about the Federal Reserve. And finding out that it's not actually part of the federal government, but a private consortium that controls the money supply, controls interest rates, and lives off the profits of doing that. We wanted it audited. Congress refuses. Of course, so many in Congress are controlled and have connections to all of the people in power, and the Federal Reserve, the money people, the Wall Street folks, they control the money, and that's what our elected officials want more than our votes right now. They want the money, because with the money they can buy our votes. Well, maybe not ours, but enough people's votes to get them back in power. Okay, folks, time for the last commercial break, and we'll talk a little bit more about the Tea Party after this. As soon as I can find the right ones here. Here we go, folks.
150 million people suffer from headaches. All you want is for the pounding in your head to stop. Migralex stops the pounding. Migralex was developed by a neurologist and founder of the New York Headache Center.
I'm neurologist Dr. Alex Mauskop. After studying and researching the human brain for 25 years, I've developed Migralex, which eliminates pounding headaches. It works for my patients, and I'm so convinced it will work for you. I don't just guarantee it, I put my name on it.
Dr. Mauskop's Migralex gets rid of headaches fast without harsh caffeine, sodium, or preservatives.
Migralex works unbelievably fast. and it's gentle on my stomach.
Find out how to get your free bottle of Migralex. Call 800-559-3307. Plus, if you're one of the first 100 callers, you'll also receive the Migralex Quick Tips to Headache Relief absolutely free. That's 800-559-3307. Or go to migralexrelief.com. MIGRALEX relief.com. Or call 800-559-3307.
Are you at least 62 years old like me? Could you use an extra $50,000, $100,000 or more to live a better life? Then please consider the benefits a reverse mortgage can provide to you. With a reverse mortgage, you can have your mortgage payments stopped altogether and get equity out of your home to live on. And you can use the money to help you live a better life. How nice would that be, not to have a mortgage payment? Qualifying for a reverse mortgage is simple, since there are no income, asset, employment, or credit requirements. However, you must be 62 years or older, own your home outright, or have a very low balance on the mortgage, and be prepared to live in it throughout the rest of the loan. Call now for more information.
800-704-1662. 800-704-1662, 800-704-1662. That's 800-704-1662.
I will never forget the day my son Jeremy told me he hated me and slammed the door in my face. I'm behavioral therapist Janet Lehman. Behavior problems can turn the child you love and your life into a nightmare. That's why my husband James and I created the Total Transformation, a step-by-step program that shows you how to fix the worst behavior problems and get your child to respect and listen to you again. No matter what the behavior, defiance, backtalk, angry outbursts, disrespect, we can help you stop it. Now you can get the Total Transformation for free. All you need to do is get the program and let us know how it works for you. You can keep it forever for free.
Limited number of free programs available. Call now. 1-800-259-1409. 1-800-259-1409. 1-800-259-1409. That's 1-800-259-1409.
This is Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio, keeping the spirit of America alive. A proud member of the Red State Talk Radio Network.
And I'm into the last few minutes of the show. I want to thank you for being with me this week. I had hoped to talk a little bit more about this good news, this article about the Tea Party, but go to AmericanPolicy.org. You can probably find it there. I think the important thing is Tom Weiss talks about how the Tea Party is being vilified, and he asks why. Why are Democrats, regressives, mainstream Republicans, the news media, and the Washington, D.C. establishment so desperate to kill the Tea Party? Because they know it represents a dedicated force that could change the future of the nation away from their well-laid plans for bigger and more powerful government control. And I think that's really the important thing we have to remember. So as Tea Partyists, libertarians, whatever you want to call yourself, anyone who stands for the Constitution and smaller government, let's not give up. We have been noticed by the establishment. We've been noticed by the other side. We've been noticed by the lamestream media, and they are scared out of their pants. And let's keep it so. In 2014, let's get another bunch of strong conservatives into Washington. Maybe we can get enough there to turn around the weak conservatives that we sent in 2010 and get them back on the right path. I'm sure we can do that. Okay, folks. Next week I'm going to have a Wild Bill for America with the T-Teens. I played his little promo a couple of times, and he's going to be coming on the show. Talk about T-Teens. This is another. He calls them the special forces of the Tea Party. So talking about the Tea Party tonight, here's another way that you can help support the Tea Party. It's not violent, but it is very much a little bit more in your face than perhaps other people want to, really think about. But here's a good opportunity to do something, and and perhaps make a difference. And if you can't do it, listen to the show and then pass on the information to your friends and get other people interested, get people in your locality working on a tea team so we can get in the face of the opposition and show them that the Tea Party is still very much alive. Okay, folks, it's coming to the end of the show, and I hear the music, so it's time to say TTFN, ta-ta for now. Like I said, please do join me next week with Wild Bill for America. Good night.
Thank you for listening to the show. I hope that you enjoyed tonight's topics. Whether you listened live, to a recording, or to a rebroadcast, I appreciate the time you share with me. We need to spread the message of liberty far and wide, so please tell your friends and family about the show. Thank you for helping to keep the beacon of hope burning. This is Stefan, your Patrick Come Lately, signing off. God bless America, and remember, L3, long live liberty.